Hello and welcome everyone to Soileos, the cherry on top webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, Stephen R. Covey once said, the key is in not spending time, but investing time. So thank you all for investing your precious time with us today. I'm your host, Dan Aberhart. I'm the least smart person on this webinar. I can guarantee that. Let me tell you about our fantastic panel today. My first guest is my little brother. Terry's passion for agriculture led him to start Suregrowth Solutions in 2008. They are a group of professional consultants dedicated to helping growers optimize their scarce and valuable resources. He also leads a team to help grow the family farm, which is always growing and exciting, and he pursues innovation through his work with various organizations, including a podcast with his amazing older brother. Can you imagine? His core values include innovation, family, passion, culture, and sustainability. This could be a drinking game to say, we have a little shot every time we hear passion in this. This bio is a passionate guy. Look, Terry's active in the community, enjoys spending time with his family, as well as extreme sports. You know, he likes to go and test his mettle in the mountains. Terry's passionate about being passionate about agriculture being his passion. So let's just say he's passionate. Welcome to the webinar, Terry.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. My second guest is from the Suregrowth family, Fritz Brits, an agronomist who's just joined Suregrowth with a degree in genetics and an MBA. He's worked many years in seed businesses like Monsanto and Bayer, managing research ops. That sounds kind of covert. A few stories to tell there. To bring cutting edge products to the market, something we're talking about here today. He grew up on a mixed farm in South Africa, farmed on his own property, and he has a weaning herd of fancy cattle. I can't even pronounce the name. It's so fancy, but I love to eat them. It sounds delicious. He's passionate about sports, spending time outdoors, and flying. I don't know if he flies over his cows to kind of check on the herd or whatever, but welcome, Fritz.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here.
Oh, it's exciting to have you. My third guest is Deep Patel. Deep is a plant enthusiast from India, moved to Saskatoon in pursuit of his passion. He obtained a post-grad diploma in biochemistry and a diploma in biotechnology. He worked at Agrosoma as an assistant breeder, managing nurseries in Chile and Australia, and later joined a potato breeding program at Tubersum Technologies. Deep is an articling agrologist, enjoys painting with an art show under his belt, bringing arts to Saskatchewan. I love it. He shares his love for food and travel with his wife. Welcome, Deep.
Thank you so much, Dan. Good morning, everyone.
My fourth and final guest is Jason McNamee, one of the founders of Lucent Bio. Jason is an energetic, experienced, I would even say scrappy at times, team leader with a demonstrated history of leading multidisciplinary project implementation teams in the ag tech, ocean tech, and engineering industries. And he just built a plant in Rosetown, Saskatchewan. Jason has been the project manager for the development of biotech materials, ag tech R&D, including field trials, the development and implementation of deep sea research projects and environmental remediation projects. He's got degrees in biology and geology. He's still a pretty decent hockey player. How does he do it all? Well, the way he's got these awesome pipes is he eats Soileos for breakfast. That's his cherry on top.
Soileos, that is. Thanks,
Dan. He probably wakes up in the morning and his wife probably says, "Hey, did you get your morning cherry on top? Did you get your Soileos in your bowl of Wheaties?" So why are we here? Well, today we are here to talk about Soileos, a product that Lucent Bio has created that to me is really a new way of delivering nutrients to your crop. It's made from upcycling food processing co-products such as pea and lentil hulls and binding it with nutrients that get slow released when it's consumed by the biome in the soil, if that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, stick with us. Hopefully by the end, it'll make sense. But imagine that, folks, a good portion of this product is already manufactured by who? The farmer. Farmers are part of the manufacturing process of this product. So congratulations for being part of the food chain, literally and figuratively. They have raised $19 million and counting. I'm not, I should have like a number tally going on there, but hey, they've done hundreds of trials, and together with AGT Foods and Ingredients, they formed their subsidiary. AGT Soileos, Saskatchewan, to bring this solution to life on the prairies by scaling up commercial manufacturing in Rosetown, Saskatchewan, right in our backyards. And now this fertilizer needs farmers to put it in the ground. That's what this is all about. It's having a conversation with the import retailer and the farmer level, making sure this product works. Our job at Aberhart Ag Solutions is part of the protein industry supercluster is to help guide this product to market. And we've been collaborating not only with Jason and the team, but we've been trialing it on the farm, right? And we have a team of agronomists here from Suregrowth to help suss out some of the, facts here about micronutrients and fertilizer delivery systems, because these two companies are really the foundation of everything we do for Aberhart Ag, like with BioCell. So today I'll be picking the brains of the folks on the panel in a very informal fashion. There'll be no PowerPoint unless we need to refer to some pretty pictures, but I think we can describe it orally. I would really like to hear from the audience. We're encouraging audience participation. So the more questions from you, the better. If I know you, I might even pick on you, Jody Berglund. But at the end of this, I guess the question for our audience and our network, everybody involved is, would you try this product? Would you implement this product into your business? Why or why not? Is it a fit? Is it not a fit? All this feedback is valuable for companies at this stage. Jason's done a tremendous amount of work to get this product to market. We will be recording this and sending this out later if you have to jet. But thank you so much for everybody that attended. So I'll be listening to the attendees as we go here, and I'd love to hear from you folks. So I believe you can just put your questions in the chat, or you can put your hand up and join us physically in spirit through Zoom. But let's just start out with the basic nuts and bolts. Jason, let's just start with, what is the secret science or sauce in everything that you've been building for the last number of years?
Thanks, Dan. Can everybody hear me okay? Sound good? Thanks. Well, it's been a bit of a road to get here, and I'm very appreciative of the intro and your participation, and also to Terry and the gang, testing the product on their farm, giving us some feedback there. But what, the secret behind what we've been trying to do at Lucent Bio, and now with our partner AGT, is we've been trying to find a way to build a crop nutrition system that's truly sustainable and actually delivers nutrients where and when those nutrients are required. And the way that we have been able to do that is we have found a way to attach nutrients to cellulose. So this is where the farmer comes in. The cellulose that we use is the hulls from the dehulling process of oats, wheat, peas, lentils, that sort of thing. And we're able to attach the nutrients to them in such a way that those nutrients don't tie up, they don't leach. And in fact, the product is water insoluble. And that's, we've got some agronomists on here, so they're going to ask me, well, then how the heck does the product actually get to the crop? Well, it turns out that the in the product is a food source for your soil microbiome, that native soil microbiome that evolved on your ground over the last tens of thousands of years. And when the conditions are right, that is when the soil is warm and moist and the soil microbiome is cycling quickly, it's also looking for energy. And that's what our product is, it's energy for that microbiome. So the microbiome consumes the product at that time, and that is the delivery mechanism for the crop. So you get an on-time delivery to your crop, which allows you to maximize your genetic potential.
Fascinating stuff. Can you tell us a little bit more about the science? I know spending some time with the scientists portion of this. You guys have done this in a way that really hasn't been done before. And there's a ton of science behind this. I know you can't give away all your trade secrets, but try maybe illuminate for us a little bit. How is it that you're able to bind these nutrients in a way that's never been done before? What is the scientific mechanism behind it?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. The reason we initially did it was we wanted to create nutrients that were bioavailable, but didn't weren't released to the environment without the activity of the microbiome. And that, because that's important, because if you have, say you have a water soluble mineral like a salt or something like that, and it's a really wet, prolonged spring, you can get leaching really easily. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted something that was released through the activity of the soil microbiome. And it took a long time. Like I'd say it's an easy process now, but it took us 4 years to figure out how to do that. 4 years with in a research lab at Simon Fraser University. So it took a long time to figure that out. But then, running it on trials, and now we're into hundreds of trials all over North America with universities, independent crop research organizations, and most importantly, hundreds of farmers all over North America to make sure that the product works the way that we thought it did, and that it's something that there's interest in the market.
We were at a grower meeting last week, and it was brought up that half of modern synthetic fertility placed near the seed row can be made of essentially chemical salts, which is produced during the manufacturing process. And I'd love to hear from any of the thoughts of the agronomist or the farmer on the panel too, but how significant is it that half of this product might be not that and something else that actually encourages what people today, in very generic terms, are considering soil health?
Well, I guess I would like to weigh in a little bit. As
Sure.
Jason said, that the technology is how zinc is linked with the cellulose, and it's a slow release. So that's a big proof in the pudding right there, right? And it is not in a salt form, or it's not in any other synthetic molecular form. So that's gonna, over the time, it's gonna leach out, or fast crystallization or whatever. But I think that, as he said, that I think is the key point to their recipe. And the fact that, so going back to a little bit of microbiology, so depending on what source of the carbon that soil microbes use to break down, to assimilate. So I think that's the pathway the soil microbes will go, digest a little bit of cellulose. The zinc will come out eventually over and it keeps extracting out of that mix over the growing phase and keeps assimilating that. And zinc is one of the key ingredients for the essential amino acids, right? So it's not like we put it once and it's done deal with. Plant needs zinc all throughout the process. So they'll need it and they'll require it, and they can assimilate it all through the process with that slow release. So I think that's a key for me here.
Oh, that's great feedback, Deep. Terry, as a producer, how much are you considering salt in the row, how hot things are in the seed row? A product like this is a big consideration for seed placement for nutrients?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, salt in the seed row is pretty critical, especially as we're pushing yields and you're trying to get your phosphorus and other things in there, depending on what kind of system you have. And of course, zinc is not really mobile in soil, right? So you want to get it as close to the seed as you can. So having a low salt fertilizer in the seed row is important.
So Jason, walk us through a little bit about the journey here with which nutrients you're focused on, what you currently have in the product, and what you guys are working on in the future with this delivery system.
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to address, it's actually not a slow release fertilizer. That's not the way that we see it. It's really an environmentally released fertilizer, because if during your season it gets dry or too dry and the soil microbiome's not cycling, you're not going to get release of that product. And similarly, if it's too wet and things go anaerobic, you're not going to get released then either. So it's really an environmentally timed release, which we think is quite unique, and that's probably why we see positive results over a wide range of soil characteristics, from higher pHs to lower pHs to sandy soils, silty soils, high organic matter, low organic matters. that environmental release is what we see as important. Now, the product itself has in the, like, say, the label would be a 0, 0, 10, 5, 10, meaning that it has about 10% of the product is potassium by weight, 5% is sulfur in the form of sulfate by weight, and then 10% of the product is a micronutrient of one sort or another. We're talking about zinc here. The reason that we're talking about zinc is that almost 70% of soil tests in Saskatchewan and Manitoba back as deficient in zinc. So that's our first real product launch that we're working on. We also have a manganese product and an iron product. The iron product, actually, we've done quite a bit of testing with, particularly on soybeans, where there's iron deficiency chlorosis, particularly in the Red River Valley. So that seems to work really well. We've done trials on that quite a bit. Next year, or this year actually, we have a copper product that's particularly aimed at copper deficient areas and cereals, wheat in particular. Alberta actually has a copper deficiency problem, particularly southern Alberta. And that's a place that we're looking at for that. And we're playing with boron. Boron will be in the field or in the greenhouse probably this year, testing to get the right product. And we'll start the field trials with boron next year.
So why is zinc a fit for prairie soils on average? We understand that upwards of over 60% of prairie soils are deficient in zinc in some way, shape, or form. So let's just talk about that for a little bit. How are you guys viewing that, Jason? Then let's hear from the panels of agronomists and farmers on that.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that, we've done trials on all kinds of soil conditions. So and in all the trials that we do, we also use other technologies, like, we soil test and we SWOT map all the fields so that we have a really good understanding of where we're placing the product and what those environmental conditions are. And on zinc deficient soils, we always see a good response. But even on zinc soils that a traditional soil test would say has adequate zinc, we're still seeing good responses. And I think that's the difference between abundance versus bioavailability. You can have an abundant nutrient, but if it's not bioavailable, you're not going to get it into your crop. But I mean, it's a question maybe more for Terry and Deep and Fritz to jump into a little bit there.
Well, I'd love to hear from Fritz.
Yeah.
Fritz, how do you manage micronutrients, zinc? How do you measure it? How do you recommend it? What's your jam?
Well, I would say the most important process that we measure it in is in our soil testing and tissue sample testing. And so in soil testing, we are looking at what's available for the plant to take up. But if we do tissue testing, we are actually seeing what's really going on inside of the plant throughout the process. And the problem with micronutrients is that you don't necessarily see deficiencies until you get to the reproductive side of things. And the other important thing that you have to remember about micronutrients is that they are mined continuously. So it is a depleting curve, as you go over time. You have to start to replace them sometime. And the fact that you don't necessarily see the deficiency immediately make it like it is a masking effect. So you have to be proactive in replenishing those micronutrients. And I think this is just one of the ways that we can supply micronutrients to the plant. And the other way that we can replenish if there is deficiencies, we can replenish with sprays on the plant, but that's more like a temporary fix. Whereas with a product like this, I think it's more a continuous process of building these nutrients within the environment for it to be available for your plant.
I like that. Great insight. Well, Terry, I know philosophically with nutrients, you're always looking at removal and uptake and not wanting to mine the soil. How do you manage something like that in zinc, or what are your thoughts on the topic of zinc on your farm?
Yeah, similar to what, Fritz had alluded to. I mean, our crops are removing all kinds of nutrients and micronutrients as well. And largely, not everyone is replacing those nutrients over time. A lot of times, we start maybe with foliars and stuff like that to kind of rescue or try to, help get a response, but that's kind of putting a Band-Aid on the issue long term. And one of the things that, the senior coaches always told us is, feed the soil to feed the plant, right? And I know a lot of the, the longtime agronomists and agronomist farmers that we watch that are pushing things have really turned to kind of building, a micronutrient program in the soil with good results. And I guess just kind of going back to the initial questions of why in Western Canada here, well, largely a lot of our soils are a little bit lower in zinc, not all of them, but a lot of them. And, zinc helps with root development, early season growth, all that kind of thing. So building your factory to build yield. So we know our soils are normally cold, which zinc is beneficial for and not as available in colder soils. And we have a very short growing season typically in Western Canada. So anything that can help push that maturity and build that stronger factory to build yield sooner is a good thing.
Deep, did you add anything to add to those thoughts, or?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with what Fritz and Terry said there.
Well, I'm glad you agree. I mean, I didn't want to have a big debate here. Actually, I disagree with everything that's being said on this webinar, and I'd like to make a totally different stance. No.
I mean, where they're coming from, right? So usually, most of the growers tend to focus on macro side of things. Micro kind of gets pushed on the back burner, right? So we have to be very mindful of the fact that to make now, this is the analogy I use for a lot of our growers. Like I ask them, do you want to make just a batch of cookies, or you want to make the best batch of cookies, right? So to make the best batch of cookies, every ingredient matters, right? So, and going back to the coaching that Terry said, that 80-20 philosophy, this is the 20% that is going to bring or bump up our 80% of the effort, right? So absolutely, micronutrients have to be replenished over a regular interval of time to get the best results out of it.
Well, I love the analogy of baking, and of course we use that for the webinar, a sundae with a cherry on top. It's not quite complete without the cherry on top.
It just ties well. It ties well.
Maybe you're a painter and a chef. I don't know. Go ahead, Fritz.
Then I've got a question for Jason.
Sure. Yeah,
Jason,
and we have some questions here from the audience too, so we'll get to that. But go ahead, Fritz.
Jason, some of our agronomists are a little bit tentative in adding potassium to the seed on the seed row, because of potassium is usually put in there as a salt, which will increase the salinity. Can you maybe just explain how your product is different in regards to the potassium content?
Well, yeah, I can do that. I mean, the product it has a very low salt index overall. So when we say, it's 10% potassium, that may sound like a lot, but remember, this is a micronutrient, and it's a dry granular, and we're only applying 10 pounds an acre. And so what we actually see in the product is when we've done root digs and stuff like that. We haven't, others do it. We take the picture, right? But we actually see clumps of roots clustered around the product. an early season growth like wheat and that sort of thing. And so with that low salt index, we see that there is no impact to the seed. In fact, we've done a lot of our trials right in furrow. A lot of the trials we've done with on wheat or something like that, like we did actually I'll let Terry say how the way they did it, but a lot of the farms we've done trials on for wheat in particular, we're just putting the product in a saddle tank on the air seeder, and we're just popping the product right directly in the seed row with no deleterious impacts. And then I also wanted to say, Deep, thank you for the baking analogy, but that is really why we're here. Zinc is not going to give you an extra 40 bushels an acre, right? What it is? No, it's not. I'm not gonna.
I was expecting at least 40 bushels an acre.
I'm not selling you 40 bushels.
Am I on the wrong webinar?
Flip the table.
But we are. But what what we are looking at is we're looking at a way to maximize the genetic potential of your plant in any given season. And that might turn into, like I say, in some parts of the field, like on Terry's farm over the last couple of years, in some parts we're getting like 10 plus bushels an acre. Some parts it's not having as much of an impact, and that has more to do with how the soil microbiome is working in those areas. So those are the sorts of numbers that we're looking at, probably looking at less than 10 bushels an acre, but that takes you from a 60 bushel acre wheat to a 70 bushel acre wheat, or 65, or what I mean. That's what we're looking at. It's that cherry on top. That's the rationale for having.
Well, it's all margin, right? At that point, it's all margin. Exactly. So it's a different calculation. So you kind of answered this, but I want to get to the audience questions. Appreciate it. Thank you, Carl DeConnick Smith. Was asking what rate is recommended to apply with the seed. So if I'm correct in listening here and being very attentive, it's 10 pounds per acre, which gives you a pound of potassium, half a pound of sulfur, and a pound of zinc.
That's about it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to add to that. Like we've done trials where we're using 10 pounds of our product an acre, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds. And what we consistently see is when you get into that pound and a half actual, that's when you're getting your optimal response. And anything more than that doesn't give you any extra. So don't put on any extra, put on the right amount, which is usually between 10 to 15 pounds, depending on your soil test.
Well, that is fascinating, and that's good news. If we can get away with maybe using less, and of course, cost is always a concern per acre. His follow-up question there, Carl, thank you. It was, is this rate based on a yearly removal rate or a building rate? I don't know if you folks have any more to add about that, but I love the idea of like we're depositing in the bank in anticipation of future withdrawals, being good stewards of the land and wanting to achieve the most with our crops. So that rate, you're saying that rate is essentially in the law of diminishing returns, the best, right? You don't get a lot more response if you double it, triple it, quadruple it.
Correct. And what we have seen, though, which is interesting, is in the drought year of 2021, we had, I think we had 30 some trials in Western Canada that were severely impacted by the drought. And what we did is we purchased the harvest files from those same growers the next year, because being that it's a microbial driven release, we would expect that during a dry year like that, we would have less microbial activity and therefore less release of the product. And so there should be some residual. And that was in fact what we saw on well over half of the farms that we worked with, is that there was a second year impact. But the design, like when we say 10 pounds an acre, that's basically the removal rate of most of your crops. And so that's where we see the best ROI.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Does anybody have anything to add about removal rates or building rates of zinc or other micronutrients? Is there anything to add to this, or should we move on?
Yeah, I got something to add. So on that, like when I don't know the exact math, I don't have it in front of me, but I was looking at this a few months ago, and like on our crops between wheat and canola and our average yields, we're probably removing about 1/4 pound of zinc a year. So that 1 pound rate would be a bit of a bill, but you have to remember as well that with any fertilizer, and even with Soileos, there's some tie up, there's some cycling of the nutrient in the soil. So Soileos won't tie up as easily or as quickly. It's more available longer, but that 1 pound rate, you know, would probably build the soil over time. It would take some time. But really you get to some point where adding more just isn't going to get any more into the plant that season. Now, if you want to fix your field, you know, what some of these guys are doing is they are going and putting on 5 or 10 pounds of actual, you know, spending a significant amount to do that, but kind of essentially setting the field up for success for a while, right? So that's one thing there. And then there was another question that we're maybe getting to about the application methods, but as Jason mentioned, you know, you can either just put it in its own tank on its own, but it also can be blended with any other granular fertilizer and mixed into the blend and applied that way.
Well, let's talk about that. We got a question there. Thank you, Jody Berglund, for your attendance and your query. And I love how people are just wondering how to get their hands on this stuff, which we can help you with, by the way.
Yeah.
Manufactured right here in Saskatchewan, Jody. So I don't know if you got a flatbed truck, but Jason's got folks there to load you up this afternoon. How is this a product applied? So talk about, Jason, just take us through, okay, you've got this science that does this novel thing. Now you have to get it into a granule to get it to farmers through all these delivery systems out in the prairies into their soil. Walk me through what it takes to build a granule and what that physically looks like. How do you apply it? What are all the permutations?
And that's a good question. But one of the hardest things to do is take your science and then turn it into something that people could use every day, right? Like it needs to be an actual thing that people like. It needs to smell good, and you know, it needs to not be dusty and all those sorts of things, right? It needs to be the right size, and it needs to be the right range of sizes. So, you know, what we have done is we found a way to push the material into a pellet. So it goes through a pellet mill, and then it goes through a screen deck and a screen deck, and then a secondary sorter, so that the product that actually is coming out is has a size guide number of 300, meaning that it has an average diameter of about 3 millimeters, which is the exact same as, you know, like a urea or a MAP or DAP granule. What we have been doing, and what you know our competitive products do, is they typically are bulk blending with MAP or DAP and putting it down in the spring during the plant. Or like there's this other option with ours, you can put it in a separate tank, like a saddle tank or whatever, and apply that to the field. But those are the primary ways of doing it. Some people have also been doing bulk blending and then fall application, and that seems to work quite well as well.
Well, and we've discussed the potential of blending it in as an add-on with Biosol if there was, you know, byproduct that wasn't manufactured into a granule. The other thing that you guys have been talking about that's very interesting is seed and fertilizer coatings.
Yeah, that's actually more of a reality than you would think. In the same process, we have been kind of playing with other natural molecules that we could attach the nutrients to, and we chose starch as the other molecule, and we've been successful at that. And what that does is that allows us to do seed coatings, and we started doing it about 18 months ago. And Fritz, you find this interesting. We've been working with AGT in South Africa, a guy named Brian Lever there, and they have the seed coating. In fact, they do the forage grass seed coating for most of Africa. Like it's a massive industry, and so we've been working with them for 18 months. We've run some field trials with that. The field trials are ongoing right now in South Africa, but we've also done rolled the seed coating out through our germination chambers in our greenhouse And we're going into field trials this year. And we've seen some phenomenal results in terms of early germination, and then in terms of protein content in the grass. And so now we are seed coating soybeans, wheat, canola, and lentils. And those are in our greenhouse right now, and we'll be going into the field in and around Saskatoon and actually Brandon area in the next month or so. So that's really interesting. One of the interesting things about it, I don't want to get too techie on here, but the process by adding the nutrient to the starch changes the hydrophobicity of the starch, which means that if we coat, say, a urea granule with it, if we use a more hydrophobic form of the material, is that the water can't get to that urea as quickly. It takes time, a lot longer, for the water to get to that urea granule, which means if you're coating that urea granule with, say, part of our product, say your urea has 20% or whatever coated by our product, well, that urea is going to be released later in the season. And so that is those are products that we're rolling out over the next few years to see if we can find a coating for urea, MAP, DAP that is a micronutrient fertilizer and also allows for a longer, slower release of the macronutrient suite.
It's just so exciting when you talk about this stuff, because the vision that I get is, even if we think about our bodies, how much better is it if we put something natural in our bodies to get an intended effect than put something, chemical in there? Like we now know, we used to smoke on planes. Of course, we've grown up, matured a little bit as a civilization. We've had lots of chemical delivery systems in our bodies and in the soil that work very well, but just by virtue of having a natural one is I think a huge win. Before we move on, does the I was going to say highly educated portion of the panel, but I don't want to exclude you, Terry. Just kidding. You're educated in the school of life. You don't have as many degrees as these folks, but is there any more comments on seed coating versus fertilizer coating versus granule and what you guys are doing with folks on the ground?
Well, I just have one question for Jason. So, Jason, when you said the company is looking into the seed coats, would that be any particular micronutrient or like the whole array of products you have?
Well, we typical of scientists, we test each one individually at a time.
Oh,
and I'll just give you an idea of how we've done. Test each one at a time to understand what the impact is. Then you start mixing them at different ratios to see what the impact is. But we start at the germination chamber, you go to the greenhouse, but then everything always changes when you get to the field. So we're still fine tuning those. But we, like, for instance, the grass seed that we're working on in South Africa, that's a combination of zinc, iron, and manganese, and it seems to be really doing the trick right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Carl DeConnick Smith, I think you should be hosting this webinar. You just segue. I couldn't ask for a better participant asking questions here. So let's start talking about trials and benefits of this product. You've done extensive third-party trials with a company called Intent, who, like us, served a certain function in the protein industry supercluster. Carl's asking, you mentioned Terry saw certain areas of the field respond better to zinc, and there's a huge theme here, and I want to unpack this with the trials. But which areas are you seeing the best benefits? And let's talk about trials. Who wants to take a kick at the can here?
Well, Jason, why don't you talk about the trials overall, and then I can share a bit on our own farm and experience here.
Yeah. So for all of our larger scale trials that we're running with, that we've run with farmers, we're typically running them with either a retailer or with a company like Intent. And what we do with those trials is we swap map all the fields, so that that's for those of you who don't know, that's soil, water, and topography mapping, so that we understand what the field looks like. in those terms. We also make sure that there are recent soil tests so that we know we have a good understanding of where our product's going down and what part of the field we're seeing successes in and what part of the field we're seeing less successes in. So what we typically are seeing is, which is not surprising, is if you have low zinc, you're going to see it. You're going to see a positive response, and then you have to kind of think to yourself, well, what are some typical areas in field where you would have low zinc? And you think about it, it's typically your upper slopes, hilltops, ridge tops, sandier soils have less zinc. That's just an easy way of looking at it. Is if you think upper slope, ridge top, hilltop, sandy, low organic matter, those are your typical low zinc areas. And so that's why when we look at a farm like Terry's farm, for example, where we see an average of around 2.5 to 3 bushels an acre improvement in wheat over the last couple of years, but in some parts of that field, you're seeing much higher returns, and that is because some of those areas are deficient in zinc. And there's no surprise to anybody here that your field is spatially and nutritionally variable.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's, much like all the variable rate work that we do, a lot of times some of the good yielding or your best yielding areas of the field might be lower in zinc because it's been mined out quicker over time, right? And so getting a bit more zinc there will help get that response, and it is a bit variable across the field. But one thing that I kind of wanted to share was a bit of our kind of experience with zinc and the trials on our own farm. And so, as I alluded to earlier, we've been working towards, moving towards a build program with some of the micros on our farm over the years, just watching the success of some of the key agronomists that I watch as well, doing similar things. And so we started putting, we did a lot of different foliars and stuff like that, but we've been starting to put some zinc into the soil over the last probably 10 years. And we started with MESZN, which is a common product out there. So you see a lot of these companies that are bringing these blended products out with zinc in them for good reason. But in some of those scenarios too, you're paying a bit of a premium for that product versus, doing it individually. But that was something that just was easy logistically to do. So we did that for quite a few years. We did a couple of years of full MESZN, and then we've kind of blended that ratio down as we built our soil levels up a bit. And we're probably in a average to good, soil test level on zinc on the farm. And so we have been using zinc over quite a bit of time. So 2021 was the first time that we worked with Soileos, and that was a bit of a drought year. Our wheat yields were only about just over 50 bushels an acre. And in the trial that we did in 2021, we actually had a 2.9 bushel response on wheat. And then in 2022, we did it again. And this is also with about, a quarter of our phosphate blend now is MESZN. So there was also a little bit of zinc in our fertilizer blend as well already across the whole field. So there was a 2.9 bushel bump on the Soileos there. And then same thing this last year, similar blend. And we had a 3.57 bushel result, or 3.5 bushel result. So the average of that was just about 3.2 bushel response, which isn't too bad. And we've got decent zinc levels and some zinc in the system already as well. And so wheat would be, cereals are probably a little bit more responsive than canola. But that's just, we've seen some pretty good results there, even though we've had zinc in the system. And so we are starting to put different granulars into the program, and something that, we've done again this year, and we'll be looking to maybe build this into our longer term program after another year of seeing the results. But thought it was pretty good to see two fairly consistent, similar results. The higher yield this year is probably just a reflection of the higher yield potential. It was more like 80 versus 50 in that field or that area where we were doing the trial, but that's just a little bit of the results on our farm over the last couple of years in cereals. So
from an agronomist perspective, what crops are we focused on, given it's zinc? Obviously, if we switch gears and we're talking with the focus on boron or other nutrients, it could change. But from the agronomist, what are we focused on with zinc getting the greatest return?
I mean, I think zinc is, important for all crops, but the ones that, stick out for me would be cereals, peas, pulses and lentils, and flax.
Yeah, and I'd add to that. I mean, our by far the best results are on corn, which is not really the focus of this sort of area. But I mean, in Manitoba, there's quite a bit of corn, and in corn we're seeing corn just yields more, but we're seeing up to 10, 15 bushels an acre in corn, which no surprise everybody's using zinc in corn as well. But
well, you have to commend a company that's gone to such great lengths and expense, and it's a tremendous amount of work for anybody that does trials, as Terry knows, and everybody on the farm knows, because logistics always trumps agronomy. But if you want to operate in this realm of agronomy, you have to do the hard logistics lifting. But if you go to Lucent Biosciences website there, they have trial data from all regions, which I think is significant. Terry, as a business person, and maybe deep in Fritz as folks that are counseling business people who have their own factory, just like Jason has a factory for production, this is just an input to the processes by which you get an output. What kind of return are you looking for? Is this satisfactory? Where do you add it? How do you coach on this? Where does this fit in as far as the results we've seen?
Well, Dan, I would say some of the most important coaching that we can support farmers with is that instead of trying to make that 20 bushel jumps with a miracle product, it's much better to try to incrementally tweak your program. If you tweak it a little bit and you get two pounds, 2 bushels bump here, and tweak it on the other side and you get 2 bumps there, you eventually get it's much more attainable, but the profits at the end of the day it's much higher than your profitability goes up much higher by just tweaking it a little bit, and this to me is a tool of that incremental increase of your yield to get to better profitability.
I think a lot of times when we look at things, you're always ideally looking for a 3 to 4 to 1 return if you can get, and so this is going to be, at those rates. I think we're pretty close to that, so or in that range.
Well, folks,
Yeah.
I just wanted to pop up this screenshot here. Kudos to Soileos for doing all this hard work. Really, wherever you are within folks that we know, you can go in here and view data that's relative to you, because one thing to do trials somewhere else, but we all know we have very specific soils, so you can see the scope of the work that's being done here to bring this to market and find out for yourself regionally what's a fit. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, you know what? I will comment on that. I mean, just the trial program. It is really hard. It is really expensive, but I mean, you have to know, and we have to be able to come out here, and we have to be able to stand behind what we say. And to Terry's point there, where he's getting about an average of 3 bushels an acre over the last couple of years on durum, which is somewhere around $10 a bushel. Am I right there? It's about $10 a bushel. Pardon?
There might be more. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
really? Okay. So our cost is somewhere around $10 an acre. So your 3 bushels bringing you $30. So that's your, around your 3 to 1, which is what we're shooting for.
Well, and as we wrap this thing up, that's really where the rubber hits the road. I wish we had time to talk about all of your team's accomplishments, all the milestones, all the hard work, late nights, the due diligence, the crisis management that goes into something like this, that we should be so proud that we have in our backyard in a time of, global destabilization and with global supply chains breaking down and worries about, fertilizer supplies in other countries. We're an island here with our own production capabilities, especially as we go more circular, which we're very proud to be involved with that kind of movement. It just makes so much more sense to get a natural solution built at home. It's very exciting. And so here we are now, you're going into production. You've been hiring folks at Rosetown, Saskatchewan, nothing better than small town Saskatchewan, really, in our hearts, anybody who's from there. And we're at a point where we have product available that we would like to see go into the ground this spring, that needs to go into the ground to help move, this whole project for humanity forward. You, Jason, big part of your why you're doing this is for, future generations having some boys coming up. There's some product available, and what Aberhart Ag would like to do as part of our function with the protein super cluster, poultry industry super cluster, is partner with folks. We would be willing to, offer up Deep and Fritz, very charming support. There's such a pleasure to work with, as you've experienced on this webinar. If you need any support, or if you have a local agronomist, we'd love to work with you on this. But we'd like to see folks take a truckload, couple thousand acres worth, put it somewhere, and there is a product guarantee on this product. Okay, so we've talked about ROI, but if you have some support from the company in the terms of, I will stand behind what we built, we will stand behind the science that Jason is offering, you're into a different zip code in terms of your business proposition. So Jason, talk a little bit about that. And essentially what the program would look like if folks endeavor to partner with us on this, collect more feedback for the betterment of mankind.
I mean, that's something that we thought long and hard about. Is we are we have a money back guarantee. We know that the product's going to work for you. There's some terms and conditions in there, like everything. Like, you need to do some soil testing, you need to leave a check strip and that sort of thing. But really, we stand behind the product. We know that it works, and we just need to get it into. Onto acres, and that's really why we're here. Is we're hoping that some people take it, try it, and give us some feedback. Or if you're not going to take it, try it. We'd also like the feedback there as well.
Yeah, you're really helping a local company here hone their trajectory to market. So we had a couple more questions here to wrap this up. You say the cost is $10 per acre. How much actual pounds of zinc per acre? I believe it was 1 pound. Is that correct, Jason?
1 pound. Yep.
And so we've got more beneficial carriers here, essentially. It's similar to biosol, right? It's similar nutrients, but just we like to think a superior carrier system. Where do you source these micronutrients from? For example, the zinc sulfate. Where do we get that kind of thing, and how can we do it in the most sustainable fashion?
It's super interesting, and I don't want to bore you too much about it, but most of the sulfate products that you see all around the world, it doesn't matter where you get them from, it comes from the actual steelmaking industry. What they do is they take the smoke from the furnaces in the steelmaking industry, turn it into a dust, and then they separate the metal components that way. So in a way that the zinc sulfate, which is one of the things that we use in the product, we transform it into Soileos, is also a very circular nutrient. We source it right now locally. There's Techmico, there's ClearTech, and then we're also working with a Mexican company because we want to, with the supply chain issues, we want having North American zinc is important as an ingredient. But we've also used overseas zinc, and turns out zinc is zinc, and where you get it from is less important than the quality of it. So we quality test every batch that comes in from wherever it is to make sure that it adheres to our strict standards.
Well, I hope in the future, the zinc manganese produced from recycled batteries that we dabbled with a few years ago are more economical to the market long-term, because that's a good solution. Well, we've got some heady questions coming in that I think we should get to, but we do want to wrap it up here quick. But by adding the carbon source from the pea and lentil hull, how much extra nitrogen needs to be added to manage the C to N ratio, carbon to nitrogen ratio, or is N tied up from this application? Who's
That's
gonna
an
take that one?
agronomist question.
I mean, I'm just thinking about, that adding 10 pounds, like, I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think that's going to be enough to change that ratio at all, or it's not significant.
And what are you using as a critical zinc level in the soil to get a response?
Well, again, it's not so much the zinc level, it's the bioavailability of that zinc. So if you've done tissue testing during the season on your operation at all, and you found there was low zinc in your tissue, that means that regardless of what your soil test tells you, it's not getting into the plant. So, if you're below, say, 1 ppm of zinc, you're in zinc deficient. If you're below 3 ppm, you're in that sort of average range. You're above that, you're in definitely a sufficient zinc range, but is it bioavailable? So really, tissue testing is really important to determine what your zinc availability is.
2 minutes to the top of the hour. It's been an awesome webinar. I just want to wrap this up by saying, Jason, thank you for coming on. Deep, thank you for coming on. Fritz coming on. Terry coming on. All the folks that come on the webinar. I think Ken Pearson's asking, I would like to know about copper with this product and boron. Can we touch on that? Quick?
Copper. Just real quick. I mean, copper, we've actually pushed it through the factory, so we can make it now. We haven't made much. We've only got about 5 tons or something like that. And that's going into field trials this year. So that's going to run through air seeders. It's going to run through different equipment so that we know that it works the same as the other products, and it will be available for sale next year.
Here's the deal, folks. Locally sourced natural product to feed your plants. I don't know what could be better. It's the cherry on top to all your plans for spring. The deal really is, it comes in 2,000-pound totes at $10 an acre. We'd like to move it by the truckload. We're looking for 10 to 12 partners to work with us on agronomy, okay, and figure out where this fits in your operation. Like we say, even the feedback about why it might not fit would be super useful to this very noble cause that we hope by having this webinar, you get to know and like and trust Jason a little bit more, and all the folks at Soileos. It's an incredible team. But Jason, just take us out with why you guys decided to have a product guarantee, what that means in this deal with the agronomic support that we're offering here, and then your big why for founding this company and putting all your heart and soul. You're talking about being out in Saskatchewan every second week. You live in Vancouver, but you're going to be scratching out on the prairies half of the time.
Well, I am from Wilcox, Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not foreign to me at all. Really, we need, I think, no matter what segment of society you live in, as we move forward, we need products that work better. We need products that cost less, and we need products that are sustainable. And you could see some of the mandates that are coming down from different government agencies in different countries. There is a real push for that sort of material, and we're right at the front of that. And the reason we're right at the front of that is we all have children, and we all want to leave the world better than we found it. And this sort of product where you have something that works better and gives you a superior ROI, we believe is the way that these more sustainable products get adopted, which gives us a better chance at a clean future.
I love it. We have one last question, but I'll leave it as a bit of a teaser. How does boron work in this process that is a negative charge product versus the zinc and manganese and copper? Well, frankly, that's Soileos' problem. They're figuring this out. And I'm telling you, these people are smart. And talking with your lead scientist there, she was describing how that is not an easy thing to do. And there is a lot of science behind this.
No, it's a completely different process compared to the large cations. So good question for whoever had that question.
That'll be for the next webinar. Well, I hope that this has been enlightening, that it brought some value for all your folks. We would love to work with you, largely through our dealer network and through Suregrowth as an agronomy company with their support with this product guarantee. I think it's worth consideration. And regardless, we would appreciate your feedback. So thank you, everybody, for attending. Thanks you all the panelists. Thank you, Jason, for coming on board. How would people get in touch with you or your team, Jason? What would you suggest is the best way if people want to look you up and know more?
Yeah, I mean, it's the website's soileos.com. It's what the phone number we got 1-855-Soileos. I don't know how we got that, but we did. And then you can always email at getstarted@soileos.com.
Love it. And what's the best way to get a hold of the folks at Suregrowth if you have more questions?
Well, you guys are welcome to go and look us up on the internet. We've got a website, suregrowth.ca. All our contact details are there, and you're welcome to contact us regarding agronomic services. We provide the whole range of services to you.
Of just one final recommendation, please don't Google not so Suregrowth. I don't think they're anywhere near Suregrowth, so make sure not to make an error there. Thanks everybody for your time and attention, and all the best this spring.
This is the logo that you need to look for.
Remember, it's not Suregrowth, it's Suregrowth.
Well, I want to add the cherry to the cake. Then, if we talk about micronutrients, they are very important for us humans as well.
Right.
So adding micros to the soil actually improve the nutrients of the food that we are producing.
Yeah, I forgot to ask how much Soileos would help your kids grow taller, because we know I think it's on the west coast of America, the kids are taller because of the zinc-rich soils, and Holland is a good example. So we know all these nutrients have a big impact on our own health, and that's the future, is nutrient dense produce foods that really are beneficial for everybody. So have a great one. Good luck seeding, everybody. Wish you all the best. Thanks for your time and attention. Take care.
Thanks so
you
much.
so much. Yeah. Have a good day, everyone.
Good day.
Bye-bye.